First overall pick, Tennessee Titans.
Well, I mean,
who will they select?
Well, this is the easy one. Everybody knows it's going to be Cam Ward. There's no secret about it.
Will Howard, first overall. Got it. Sorry, Kyle McCord. Wrong guy. My bad. So, Cam Ward.
Let me put it this way. Kyle McCord will make a team.
He'll second, third round pick. He's going to be somewhere in here.
He will make a team. He may be practice squad early, but eventually ascend at some point to a 2 on a team. So,
I'm fairly confident.
In fact, I predict Kyle McCord will actually get into a couple of games this year because of attrition.
There are a lot of teams that also need quarterbacks anyway, and if they think at some point in the season, 8 games in, their situation is terrible, cough, cough, Spencer Rattler, may as well take a shot at him. Yeah. So, first overall, Cam Ward to the Titans. It's pretty much the easiest pick. He, a week ago, was on podcast saying, the best receivers in the NFL are number 4, Treylon Burks, and number 1, Calvin Ridley. I mean, last night, apparently, they also filled their receiver need with Tyler Lockett. So, the Titans.
Good, dependable, not a game breaker, but on the level of professionalism and dependability, Lockett's a good player.
And in terms of helping Cam Ward develop, it's a pretty good option to have in terms of hey.
But now what do they do with Will Levis? That'll be the next part. Do they deal Will someplace, which I think they will.
It is the question. And then coming up number 2, a pick that people think might be on the clock in terms of trades, the Cleveland Browns at number 2. The current projection looks like it's going to be Travis Hunter. The rumor is they could trade it, but in this case, they're not going to.
Right. So let's talk about that for a moment. When you're the Browns, you have multiple needs. So when you have multiple needs and you have a player on the board that can fill 2 of your needs, and it doesn't matter to me whether he's a slot corner situationally to being a full-time wide receiver. That's fine. You're still filling 2 needs with one player. That becomes, to me, the overall factor in this. I know when I did the Browns podcast with them on their flagship station, but I think it was actually on the station. It wasn't, and I think they doubled it as a podcast. They were all over Abdul Carter with the idea that Carter opposite Myles Garrett would be just a great thing for Cleveland. So I wouldn't count Carter out of the sweepstakes, but I'll take Travis Hunter in this spot.
Travis Hunter, number 2, now leads us to another team that is quarterback needy. That the gossip on the street is they could go with pretty much anybody in this draft. The New York Giants, sitting 3rd overall. Their needs per PFF are quarterback, tackle, defensive interior, and cornerback. But at the Giants, they kind of need a lot of things.
Well, again, multiple needs for a team that's just not a good team. The quarterback situation would be, do I make a trade, get multiple picks, and then I still have a prime pick in an area at somewhere between 15 and 25 where I could make that quarterback pick. Okay. But since we have to stick here, you take the best player available on the board. And as I told when I was on the Giants podcast, I said, look, the 2 best players on the board, I said, are Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. I said, and you can argue who is the best. I said, and you would not have a wrong argument on Hunter, and you would not have a wrong argument on Carter. And they agreed with that. I said, so you take the best player available. Carter's the best player available. He goes to the Giants.
Abdul Carter, first Penn State player off the board, not going to be the last in this first round. He goes to the New York Giants 3rd, which then brings us to the team the Giants have tortured over the past 2 years in different Super Bowl formats, the New England Patriots, with needs at running back, receiver, and a glaring one on the offensive line.
Well, they're going to go with a tackle to protect Drake May, and that's going to be Will Campbell from LSU. It seems like he's pretty much the obvious one. I was just in Boston. They were like, well, hey, we're going to draft Will Campbell. I said, well, good luck.
Yeah. It's not a flashy pick, but it's the one they need because Drake May needs protection.
Look, does he have a skill set? Skills. Okay, footwork, how to play, and so forth to be a Pro Bowl tackle? Yes. There's going to be questions about arm length, and he's going to have to overcome that. If he can't overcome it, it doesn't mean they can't move him to guard. But if he can deal with it, and he dealt with it in the SEC.
Yeah.
Okay. It's look. It's not like he's out there in his alligator arms, but but the ideal arm length, he's actually like a couple inches short on the ideal arm length in the NFL. But this is one where it's a need, it's a fit. The Patriots will take him, and I think that's like Cam Ward. That's one of the no doubters of the draft.
No doubter. Will Campbell, 4th overall, brings us straight south to the land of Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the 5th pick, and teams pretty much don't know what they're going to do at this point because the Jaguars sit here with needs across the board, offense, defense, and there's rumors of anyone.
So who's the head coach?
Liam Cohen.
And what was Liam Cohen's background?
Offense.
Ashton Genty, Boise State.
Ashton Genty, Boise State. Does that mean I presume they're going to trade Travis Etienne or Trevor Etienne?
Maybe.
Think Bigsby's there.
They don't have to. But again, what's the background to the head coach? The background of the head coach is offense. I mean, I think they're going to take Ashton Genty.
And the team upset about that is the team everyone thought would get Genty, 6th overall, the Las Vegas Raiders. They're sitting here at needs at running back, receiver, interior on the defense, and at defensive back.
All right. So Genty's off the board. Pete Carroll's going to want, he always wants big offensive linemen. So let's go to Texas. Kelvin Banks, the guard from the University of Texas.
Kelvin Banks goes to the Raiders. And then making their way similarly to the Meadowlands, the 2nd pick in 7 total, the New York Jets. And, of course, they have a quarterback slot that has been filled by Justin Fields, and they have needs across the board when it comes to the receiver's position, tackle, defensive interior, and there's one player people think might get picked by them, but who do you have going to the Meadowlands?
I know a lot of people talk about Tyler Warren. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they've got Olu Fashion, who already penciled in to play left tackle. So how about Armand Membo from Missouri to play right tackle?
It's a heck of a tackle duo. It means you're pretty much set on the tackles for the years to come, and they're both young. They're both going for it, so may as well. We then move down to 8, Carolina Panthers. They're sitting here. The projection is a receiver or an edge rusher for them. There are quite a few of both of those options on the board.
A guy I am big on, and it's really, you watched when Georgia played Texas, this guy spent the vast majority of the time in the backfield. The vast majority of the time in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Jalen Walker of Georgia. I really like him as a player. I mean, when I had to prepare ahead of time, so I had both Notre Dame and Georgia prepared for the Orange Bowl because of time frame. I had to make sure that way I was updating teams when I got there. Walker's numbers were just stunning to go with what I saw visually.
Mm-hmm. So Jalen Walker, 8th overall, brings us now to my team, the New Orleans Saints. And before we get to the pick, who I chose yesterday for the Saints was based on how my draft had gone. I had the Saints take Armand Membo. I think we just announced that they're not picking up the 5th-year option on Trevor Penning, the right tackle. Talisi Fuaga, the left tackle currently, is a natural right tackle. Membo can play left tackle, so the thought would be put Membo left, Fuaga on the right, and then you go from there, or the inverse, I believe. But the Saints right now sitting here at 9th overall. Of course, we don't know the future of Derek Carr. No one's got any idea. New coach Kellen Moore comes in. What's he going to do? I have a thought of who they go here, which is just best player available. But
who's your thought on best player available?
Best player available would probably be Tetairoa McMillan or Tyler Warren. Those would be the two guys I'd look at. I'd look at someone on the offensive side of the ball. I think you can just get the best dude there. Get whoever it is who you have ranked highest on your board who's left. That's my thought.
At this point, the highest ranked guy on the board left would be Mason Graham.
I don't think the Saints need it as much.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that would be the highest ranked on the board. What about a quarterback? I'm just throwing it out there. What about a quarterback?
That is the question for the Saints. Is do they go quarterback?
Does Kellen Moore as a quarterback who played the position, who's been a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, does he bring in a quarterback to mold in his image?
The question is maybe, but along with that, how do they feel about Spencer Rattler? That is the weird one here. If Rattler's not there, if they have just Jake Haener and just Derek Carr, I think quarterback is taken at 9. The problem is, do they have some belief in Rattler? And for all accounts, it seems like they do have a belief in him, which is why there's rumors Saints trade up to the 20s, their second round picks, to get a Jackson Dart. as a Saints fan who follows all the things and stays as much in touch as I can with the Saints stuff, truthfully, I have no idea what they're doing with this pick. They could take Jahdae Barron. I wouldn't bat an eye. They could take Mason Graham. I'd be like, okay. There is literally no pick I don't think the Saints could make here. They have every option available. That's why I think whoever the best player on your board is, if that's Shedeur Sanders, if that's Tetairoa McMillan, if that is Mason Graham, whoever the best dude left is that you think is the best player, just take him at this point.
This is going to be a reach. I'm going to say they're going to take Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart goes to the New Orleans Saints. That is, I think, the first big, I guess.
Let's have fun.
Yeah, we're having fun here.
I'm having fun with the dang thing. Let's go.
You are having fun here. That brings us now to the double doinkers, the Chicago Bears, sitting there at number 10.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Tyler Warren going to the Bears here.
Tyler Warren to the Bears, partner him and Cole Kmet up. Yep. You've got them. You've got DJ Moore, Roma Dunze with Caleb Williams. He's got a new offensive line with some new traded guys in.
And who's the new head coach there?
An offensive guy.
Guy.
Sitting there pretty.
Right. Which pick gets the San Francisco, which needs a defensive tackle. They take Mason Graham.
They take Mason Graham. So they're not taking Kyle F to your dismay because you want me to be a Niner so Jason Lord can enjoy that? You're not mean, I know.
No,
you're a happy person.
It's like, I realize that he loves the 49ers because, his family panned for gold back in the 40s. And, in the 1840s, and as you can tell by the clothes he wears, they came up empty.
And I was not alive in the 80s, 90s. The Niners, of course, were a huge rival of the Cowboys, who are sitting here at number 12 with needs aplenty. Where do the Cowboys go at number 12?
McMillan.
Tetairoa McMillan to the Cowboys. I know the hot rumor on the street, if he was gone, would be Matthew Golden. Stays down in land Texas. Goes the Cowboys. Brings us to 13, which currently is the Miami Dolphins, who are in an interesting spot. They need offensive line help, defensive interior help, plus
Walter Nolan,
cornerback help. But they go Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Second Ole Miss player taken in the first 13 picks.
By me, yes.
Which ain't too shabby. Now, the Indianapolis Colts sitting there.
If Tyler Warren were sitting there, they would take him. So he's not sitting there based on our mock draft. That means Colston Loveland of Michigan, because we're going to stick tight end here.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Now brings us to 15 and the Atlanta Falcons, who have needs on receiver, at center, on the edge, and at linebacker. Where do the Falcons land?
Edge, Georgia, Mykel Williams.
Mykel Williams makes his way to Georgia, if I could ever find him in this different selection of players. There he is. Coming in number 16, midway point of the draft, the Arizona Cardinals. They need guard, defensive line help, corner help. Where do they go?
Oh, boy. A guy that I think is a really good player from Alabama, Jahad Campbell. I think he could fit as an outside, as a linebacker for them. I think he'd really help.
And then brings us now to the back half of the draft. The Cincinnati Bengals. Do they ever give any love to the defense, or do they complete the offensive trio?
No, look.
Because their defense is bad, but they're going all in on offense. So,
well, it seems that way, but I think they're going to have to do something defensively here. And to me, there's a lot of people that really like Derek Harmon of Oregon. I don't. Mm-hmm. When he was at Michigan State, I was like, eh. When he was at Oregon, because I did the Big Ten championship game, I was like, eh. And then when he played Penn State in that game, he was, Penn State ran for 200-something yards. And guess what? He was a part of it. I'm just not big on Derek Harmon. I just am not. And, I'm talking like never. With all due respect to the entire Harmon family, I am not big on.
They're not big on you.
They're just not big on Derek Harmon. So I'm going to stick Michigan, because the guy I am big on is Kenneth Grant. I think Kenneth Grant of Michigan is a really good player. And I think he and Graham were a really good 1-2 punch in the middle, as Ohio State found out.
Michigan now sitting there with 3 picks in your top 17, and there's a pretty strong chance to get at least one more guy in there before the first round wraps up,
Will Johnson,
which we'll get to in a little bit. The Seattle Seahawks sitting here at pick 18.
So Metcalf is gone. Lockett's gone. What do you do? Okay, how about Matthew Golden of Texas?
Matthew Golden, Texas, makes his way to Seattle to partner, I guess, Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. I guess.
Yeah. Well, no, but they need it.
Yeah.
They've lost Metcalf. Lockett's now gone.
You have Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then you add in Matthew Golden.
You know, so I want to pair them up.
You pair them up, and then you make your way from the Northwest down to the Southeast to Tampa, where the Buccaneers are in need of help on the defensive side of the ball. Their offense, pretty good. Got good receivers, running backs, quarterback, defense. Question.
Well, how about Jahdae Barron from Texas, the corner?
Jahdae Barron. There we go. Back-to-back Texans.
Yep.
And then as soon as they wrap up, it brings us to a team that I'm very intrigued by for quite a lot of reasons, because it is the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos, currently the rumor is they could be looking to trade this pick because teams want to jump the Steelers to go and get Shedeur Sanders. But along with all of this is the rumor and the thought that Sean Payton wants himself a Army knife. He's had that for years at the Saints. He had for gosh knows how long Alvin Kamara, Jimmy Graham.
So you're leaning toward
Tyson
Amari
Hill.
and Hampton from North Carolina.
I'm leaning Amari and Hampton.
I think that'll be the pick.
I also think if one of Loveland or Warren somehow makes it to 20, they're just not they're not making it past the Broncos. I think those two are their top two guys. I think Hampton's right after them. If they have any chance of getting one of the two tight ends, they take them. If not, Hampton at 20, which now brings us to 21, which should be around 10:38 p.m., as fans have pointed out. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh boy.
Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur Sanders. You pulled the trigger on him. The apparently Mike Tomlin loves Shedeur. They don't have a quarterback. Kind of makes sense. Unless you think Mason Rudolph is the future.
No. Do I think that they have other needs?
Of course.
Yeah. Do I think there are better players? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it'll excite the Pittsburgh fan base? No. Most teams that draft a quarterback, the fan base gets excited.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this case.
No. I can remember a few years ago, Steve, the Steelers had about the 20th or 21st pick in the draft and took a quarterback after a similar season.
Yep.
How'd that work out for them?
Yeah.
Making it a 22, a team that has itself a quarterback, needs some help on the skill positions and also on the defensive line.
Well,
the Chargers.
Yeah. Now, normally, if he falls this far, I think Jim would take
Loveland.
Well, he'd take Loveland if he fell this far. He'd also take Grant if he fell this far. But because of that, he'll take Derek Harmon of Oregon.
Derek Harmon.
I don't care what that guy, whether I like him or not. I know he's graded in the first round. I just don't understand why he's graded in the first round. In fact, to me, I've watched Derek Harmon how many times against Penn State in my career. This goes back to the pick the Giants made at corner for Banks from Maryland. There's no time in any game I did between Penn State and Maryland where Jack and I sat down and would talk about just privately about the opposing team, and his name never came up, Deontay Banks. Never came up because you watch the video, just another guy, just another guy, just another guy. Right? That's the same thing with Harmon. It's not like I've never done a Derek Harmon game or multiple Derek Harmon games, which means I've watched multiple videos that include teams he's on. And he's always been just another guy.
Yeah.
But he's graded first round, so
may as well.
So send him in there.
And he's going to be sent onto the stage. I don't know if he's there or not in Green Bay, where the draft is being taken place, of course, with the 10th overall pick. Tyler Warren's going to get a lot of boos because the Bears are going to get booed heavily in Green Bay.
Yes, they will.
But a team that is
But he's not going to be there anyway.
No, but a team that's going to get love when the pick is selected at 23, the Green Bay Packers, with needs at receiver, edge, and corner.
So, yep, and that's the last part. The last part's right there. That's the Will Johnson pick right there.
Will Johnson makes his way from Michigan to Wisconsin, which then brings us to another pick that's probably going to get a little bit of booze. The Minnesota Vikings sitting on the clock at 24.
Nick, I'm on a worry from South Carolina because, Harrison Smith's getting long in the tooth for the NFL. Geez, 36 is long in the tooth. I'm trying to remember 36. But yeah, the kid from South Carolina gets the pick.
South Carolina safety. I think a freak athlete. I believe he had some crazy off the charts numbers.
Yeah.
Nick Emanwari goes to the Vikings. Then going down south, the Houston Texans sitting here with glaring holes on the offensive line. They have some good receivers in there, but there's a question at receiver as well due to some injuries. We already have the Texans going for CJ Stroud.
Well, where's Laramie Tunsil right now?
He is gone.
Yeah. Josh Simmons of Ohio State. I know there's been some medicals that haven't come out right, but this guy is a first-round talent.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it all over the video and getting ready, even though he did not play against Penn State this year because he got hurt in I think he got hurt in the Oregon game.
He did. He got hurt in the game, didn't play Penn State.
Right, and didn't play. But you can see all over the video of other games that season that the guy was a big-time talent. He's a transfer from San Diego State, so I think Josh Simmons is the pick.
Josh Simmons, 25th, brings us to 26th, where the L.A. Rams are up with the first-round pick for the first time in God knows how long. They're actually picking. Again, they picked Jared Verse, I believe, last year in the first round, which they didn't trade the pick, surprisingly. And now they have another pick in the first round this year. I believe they're also making their selections, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the firehouses in L.A.
Yes,
they're partnering up to do it, which I think is incredible.
Yes,
so shout out to the Rams, Les Snead, Sean McVay, all of them for doing that. The Rams sitting here at 26th overall with a few needs across the board. Where do you have them going here at 26?
They got a lot of needs.
They got a lot of needs.
I'm going to go Booker, the guard.
You're going with Booker, the guard from Alabama. Tyler Booker.
Yeah, the guard.
Guard from Alabama. He is projected somewhere in that first round. It could be up as high as 15 all the way through 32, somewhere in there.
Right.
So Booker, the first guard off the board, brings us now to the Ravens sitting here at 27 with needs on the offensive line and then on the defense, on the edge, and in the defensive back room.
All right. So what's interesting is that what's Baltimore known for doing? They actually take traits over production. Not always, but they've always had a tendency to do, like, I see the trait, what he has. So a guy that fits that category is Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
Why would that be?
Because his production is okay. See, I'm the opposite. I want production. I want to see, like I just talked about Harmon. Okay? Harmon has traits. I never see production.
You want the higher floor to be the higher floor is a positive.
Look, college football has become really, really good. Now, is the NFL a big jump? Of course it is. But if you're able to perform well in a Power 4 conference, and in this case, like we're talking about the SEC, that tells me something.
Yeah.
Okay? That you've got something to you and that you can play. Stewart's one of those guys that flashes and shows he can play, but it's more about his traits and physicality, things like that.
What he could do.
And that's what the Ravens do.
Shamar Stewart sitting there at 27. 28 brings us to a team that's also going to get booed in this draft, the Detroit Lions, sitting here at 28.
Man, they got a lot of stuff.
They got a lot of needs. Wide receiver, guard, edge, linebacker. They got a lot they're in need of.
Well, first of all, they're an excellent team. I don't think they lose to Washington if they have their defense.
Yeah, if they're healthy, even by 20% more.
I mean, I have rarely seen a team in the NFL on one side of the ball get more decimated than Detroit. Now, I realize Goff threw the 5 interceptions against Washington.
But it would have helped if they had, I think, 8 of their 11 players back.
Right. And I think that, and I know there's some injuries are an excuse.
When it's to that extent, it's a lot.
Okay, let's deal in reality here. Now we're done with your fantasy team. Donovan Izaraku from Boston College because he's an edge player.
Edge rusher. And then it brings us to the team they lost to, the Washington Commanders, sitting here at 29. They would love Marion Hampton to be on the board here. He is not going to be. They are sitting with needs at the rush and the running back, guard, edge rushers, and in the defensive back room.
Well, in the defensive back room, what was a really good team this year defensively? It was Kentucky. Kentucky's really good. So how about Maxwell Hairston?
I believe
from KY.
I believe the fastest man in the draft this year, if I'm not mistaken. Now brings us to the back three of this draft, the three teams people think are the best in the NFL, and I tend to agree with that one. The Buffalo Bills sitting here. They need help on the defense, pretty much,
Look,
where they need help.
Again, I watched them play against Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Watch them play in the SEC championship game. You watch them play against Notre Dame. Malachi Starks sticks out to me at a position of need for the Bills at safety, and I would go with Starks from Georgia.
Malachi Starks makes his way to the land of Buffalo, and now brings us to the Super Bowl team, the losers first, the Chiefs.
Losers.
Who, I'm going to make a prediction similar to the Patriots, what you did earlier. I'm going to guess offensive line, Steve. Is that a fair guess to make?
And let's go with a guy that impressed me on video when I was getting ready for the game and impressed me in the game itself, and that's Josh Conerly from Oregon.
Josh Conerly. And then to wrap up the first round, I projected if he was on the board, which you had him going way earlier than I did, I think if he's on the board, they go back to the Georgia well, take Mykel Williams off the edge. They, of course, lost Josh Sweat this year to free agency, Milton Williams, and the interior is gone, and Brandon Graham has also retired. So they are in need a lot off the edge, and there are a few edge rushers still left over, but a lot of players they're in need of. A lot of slots.
Mike Green Marshall.
So your first round, as we go over it, as it wraps on up here, just to make sure I've got this on the spot. First overall, Tennessee takes Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. Cleveland Browns, second overall, Travis Hunter, Colorado. New York Giants.
We don't project trades.
With no trades involved. Yeah. Third overall, the G-Men go for Abdul Carter. Fourth, the Patriots select Will Campbell, LSU. Fifth, the Jags go with Ashton Genty out of Boise State. The Raiders go with Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. The Jets go Armin Membu, the tackle from Missouri. The Panthers go with Jalen Walker from Georgia. The Saints go with Jackson Dart at Ole Miss.
That's right. I did that to spite you.
I know you did. The Bears then at number 10 take Tyler Warren. 11, the Niners go with Mason Graham. 12, the Cowboys go Tet McMillan. The Dolphins 13, Walter Nolan out of Mississippi. The Colts go with Colston Loveland. Mykel Williams makes his way to Atlanta Falcons. Arizona Cardinals take Jahad Campbell from Alabama. Kenneth Grant to the Bengals. Matthew Golden to the Seahawks. Jahdae Barron to the Bucks. Omarion Hampton to the Broncos. Shedeur Sanders to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21. A person who I guess isn't a fan of you, by the way, is Derek Harmon and his family. Goes 22 to the Chargers. Will Johnson to the Packers. Nick Emonwori to the Vikings.
I mean, like I said, I know he grades out high. I'm just talking about, look, it's not as if I've never seen him.
I know. You said you're not a fan of him. I don't think his family's a fan of you.
And I don't care. Okay? Guess what? He can laugh at me all the way to the bank because he is going to be a first-round pick with first-round money. And I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Coming in 24, Nick Emonwori.
Doesn't mean I'd pick him.
I know. Nick Emonwori makes his way to the Minnesota Vikings at 24. Josh Simmons, 25 to the Texans. Tyler Booker, 26 to the Rams. Shamar Stewart, 27 to the Ravens. Donovan Ezuraku to the Lions at 28 or 29. My bad, I can't read math. 30, the Malachi Starks pick goes to the Buffalo Bills. Josh Conerly Jr. to the Chiefs at 31. To wrap up the first round, Mr. Mike Green goes to the Kelly Green of the Philadelphia Eagles.